Hello, my name is Janice B. Gordon. This is Scale Your Sales podcast. Welcome to the Scale Your Sales podcast, listed number 9 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional in 2021. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, recommended by LinkedIn as one of 15 innovative sales influencers to follow in 2021. In this episode of Scale Your Sales podcast, I speak to a managing director of a company that he has led for over 31 years. So we start at the source, how he began, and talked about the recent awards the company has achieved, national awards as the best company. So there's a lot in between that. How did that come about? Well, first we talked about how they bring on their sales team to be relationship builders, and also talked about the culture within the organization, how they dealt with their customers during COVID, and how this really led into being a company that demonstrates the culture of fairness. This is a really interesting conversation and a very interesting character as well. There's a lot for founders and CEOs to learn from this guest. My next guest is founder and MD of cybersecurity Ramshack, the secure choice. He is also PSA Regional President of Southeast and the UK Ambassador of Cybersecurity for the Institute of Directors. He sits on the advisory board of the Cyber Resilience Centre in the Southeast and is a leadership fellow at Windsor Castle. Welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Rob May.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Janice.
Well, it's lovely. I know we've been friends for a while now. You're president of PSA, Professional Speaking Association Southeast, and I think we met when I was president. I can't remember how many years ago. So we've been around the speaking world, business world for a while, and it's an absolute pleasure to finally get you on, because I've been trying for a while now, haven't I, Rob?
Absolutely.
So, Rob, I would like to go way back to 1992. This is just prior to you starting Ramshack, and we're going to talk a lot about that. But I'm really interested in you. What was your life like at that time? What were you thinking of? What brought you to the point where you were about to start the company?
So, interesting time. And 1992 is a very long time ago. So I'd started my career really in corporate life. I was working for a large corporate that was predominantly owned by IBM, and we'd gone through that transition. I joined a business that was sort of 80 people, and then shortly after they were bought and we became huge, and then 9 months later we were bought again, and then all of a sudden I found myself in this company that was about 300,000 employees worldwide. And I realized at that point that corporate life was just very, very frustrating. You know, it was, I see problems, but I don't see them in a negative way. I see things where I think that doesn't make sense to me. If it was me, I would do it like this. Yeah. And in the first 2 iterations of the business that I had joined, that was loved. And I would say, that doesn't make sense. If it was me, I would do it like this or like this. And more often than not, people would go, oh, yes, you're right. In the final iteration of the business, every time I said that, I got told to shut up and get back in my box. Yeah. And I just thought, this is just crazy. I can't live like that. And I remember describing it actually to my family as feeling like golden handcuffs, because I was in a scenario where I'd got a brilliant job paying a ridiculous amount of money. It really was a ridiculous amount of money. And I thought, I can't go anywhere else because no one else is going to pay me that. And then I'd had enough, actually. I stopped. In fact, I remember pulling over, driving into London one morning and just pulling over and thought, I just can't do it. Right. And I resigned. And going out on my own, that was okay. You know, I could make the move and free those metaphorical golden handcuffs.
That must have been quite a difficult. You must have really have come to your end at that point, because, you know, if you were paid a ridiculous amount of money, what was your position at that time?
So I'd gone through. I'm technical by background, and I'd gone through my technical training, and then someone noticed that actually I was good at selling, and I'd ended up. My role was looking after their UK dealer channel. So I had these partners all around the country, and it was my job to help them sell our software at the time. And I was technical, and every sale that they did needed technical advice. So I was helping them do their sale. And so that was the role. So it was sort of partnership management and technical sales, really.
Mm. So then when you decided, I've had enough, I need to go it alone, what was the next step?
So it was, I was really blessed. I'd decided to resign. I'd got my letter of resignation. And on the day that I went in to resign, there was an announcement that there were going to be some redundancies within the business. And when I went and saw the CEO, I basically offered myself for redundancy. And the initial response was no. There's only you that does what you do. There's no way we can let you go. But after various conversation, it turned around that he said, well, why don't you leave actually and set up doing a networking, technical business, which was incredible because that was my plan. What was incredible about it was that my contract precluded me from dealing with any of my contacts. And what he said was, look, we're talking about possibly pulling out of that area of the industry. Why don't you go off and set up a business that does it? And if you do that, I will allow you to take all your contacts. So they rewrote my contract. I left. We had a company chauffeur at the time who drove me home. I never went back, never got to say goodbye to anybody. And the next morning I phoned up all the partners and said, I'm out on my own now. But still want to work with you with the full blessing of the mothership. And that was the Wednesday, and by the Friday I'd made my first sale, and the business was launched. Wow,
that's a luxury story, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You couldn't have asked for any better, right?
No.
Fantastic. Okay, so now let's fast forward and tell me about the recent award, because in 31 years to achieve what you have now. So tell me about how that all came about.
So this is the Best Company to Work For awards, and we've been entering those awards for a number of years. What I love about the awards, it used to be the Sunday Times Best Companies, and it has evolved into the Best Companies. And what I love about it, and the reason that we do it actually, is it's not about vanity. It's not about having another award on the shelf. It's the science that goes into it. It's the in-depth questioning of every single member of staff, and they rank and report and study on so many different elements of the business. So this last round that we did, it was about 80 questions. And I remember talking to them after the results came out, and you will have seen, I was up in Media City, and I was interviewed by Dan Walker. And we won the #1 company to work for. And when I was interviewed, they said one of the areas that they were measuring was about fairness, and there was a whole series of questions, and really it was about, well, what was the company's response to the cost of living, and did it's about employee satisfaction at the end of the day. You know, the best company to work for, it's all about, well, as an employee, what does it feel like? And one of the things that they said was most companies, because they measure every quarter, and they said most companies in that last quarter had dropped, and we had gone a long way the other way. And no, it was fantastic. So we ended up with 3 awards. We were in the we were #3 in terms of best company to work for in the Southeast. We were #5 in terms of best mid-sized company in the whole of the UK, and we were #1 best company in the whole of the UK in terms of business services, which was, it was just incredible. And that whole day, and the TV studio experience and all the rest of it was great. It was great to be involved with.
I mean, that's fantastic that during times of when individuals are feeling the real crunch, that you're going the opposite way. So how did that come about? How are you enabling your employees, your team, to have a better life rather than to really feel the crunch?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I don't know that it's possible to do that for everybody. And as I say, the interesting thing for me was their measure was about fairness, because in an ideal world, you know, you would as the cost of living increased and costs got more and more, you would give people more and more money. But you can't do that, can you? And we had an interesting discussion, actually, in as much as the press talk about the cost of living, but what they don't talk about is the cost of trading. And the cost of trading's got more and more difficult, and that's never a commentary. You know, if you think all the costs have gone up and then salaries have gone up. We did a number of things, actually, when we started last year with the whole cost of living as a background. We did a number of things. The first thing we did was we went out to market to sanity check the salaries that we were paying people in different positions, and in most cases we were absolutely fine. You know, we're in Surrey, but we have to counter we're so close to London. In fact, it's quicker for me to get into London living in Surrey than it is to get into the office, which isn't very far away. But so we have to look at London pricing and so on. And we went out and said, okay, so what's the market playing? If we take each of our job areas, and I think we've got something like 32 different job titles now. What are we paying? And in most cases, that was fine. But in one particular department, it wasn't. We were below what the market was paying. So the first thing we did was we leveled up there, and we said, look, you guys, should all we be being paid this? So we did pay increases for that team, because at that same time, we were facing, or the market was facing, the so-called Great Resignation. Headhunters were, rampant, and we thought, well, we don't want to be losing people. We're really good at keeping people, and we wanted to continue doing that because it's important when it comes to customer service. So first of all, we leveled up in some departments. Then we looked at, well, what do we do in terms of pay increases? And we reacted quite quickly, I think. But one of the things that we were conscious of was, if you just do a straightforward percentage pay increase, people who are earning the highest banding salaries get a lot more than people who are lower down in their earlier on in their careers. So what we ended up doing quite early on last year was, first of all, we'd leveled up. Then we gave everybody a 5% increase, but then we also gave everyone cost of living bonuses. And what that meant was, and that cost of living bonus felt like an awful lot more for people on the lower bandings. So they ended up with sort of an 11% pay rise. Whereas for someone on the top salary banding, they might be getting a £500 cost of living bonus, which everyone appreciated, but it wasn't the same. The people who really needed it most got it. And look, if you'd got a magic money pot, you would give even more away, wouldn't you? But that was our approach, and we just spoke about it as we always do, and told everyone what we were doing and what our rationale is. And we're just always open and driven by the guiding principle of, are we doing the right thing?
I love that. So talking about, are we doing the right thing? I'd really love you to share what happened during COVID when you decided you're not losing any of your customers, because I think this is very much plays into what we've just talked about, fairness and the values of the organization.
Yes, I mean, they were such difficult times, weren't they? And they were unprecedented times. And we had taken the approach when the government announced that there was going to be lockdown. Firstly, we took the approach that, as far as our people were concerned, whatever happened, we were going to keep everybody employed. We didn't look at furloughing or redundancies or whatever, where a lot of our competitors definitely did. So that was with our people, but we then started to have conversations with customers who were clearly hurting. Different industries were hit harder than others. I mean, leisure and so on was absolutely caned, wasn't it? And as clients came to us, we realized we were having conversations where people were saying, look, we've had to furlough however many staff, and we just need to cancel the contracts. We've got to save money wherever we can. And we just said, look, don't cancel our contract. You need us, you need our support, and we will support you. And and we came to agreements with those clients who needed help, and we said, we will support you through this difficult time, and just reviewed it on a sort of a three monthly basis. And the beauty of that, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because we were doing it at the time because we thought it was the right thing, and we thought people were in trouble and needed help. The beauty of it is, we didn't lose any clients, and also I think it earned loyalty, because as soon as they could afford to pay what they should be paying again, they came back and said, thank you for your support, thank you for being with us on the journey, and now we can bounce back, and it's business as usual. So it is. I mean,
I would imagine that some people, so the long-term value, they're not just going back to where they were, they're actually going back with so much more loyalty and almost reciprocity, in that they'll do so much more for you. So you couldn't really you can't put a figure on what that is worth in terms of goodwill that you have earned over that period of time.
No, absolutely. And it's it wasn't a strategy to say, well, let's do this, and then that will be the upside further down the road. We weren't looking at that at the time. It was that filter of, let's do the right thing, and let's help people out. And I think time and time again, when you do the right thing, good things happen.
Absolutely. And in your background, Ramshak, the secure choice, so it's also saying a lot about your brand values as well, doing the right thing. You've also mentioned fairness. All of these words keep coming again and again, and the fact that you're keeping your employees and you're winning awards on it. And it just seems that when you do the right thing, there's so many other more valuable areas that you kind of gain credence with. And I think that's a good testament. I mean, what is business about, really? It's not really about profit. It's about investing in society. It's a means to represent the people within your business. And so it's got to be about values, really. You've got to lead with that.
Yeah, I agree. And if you do those things, then you do make profit. And obviously that's good, and you want to run a business that is profitable, but it's so much nicer to drive that by doing the right thing. And our tag that you mentioned, so when we said it's Ramsack the secure choice, that's got a number of meanings. It's Ramsack the secure choice because we're a cybersecurity based business, but it's also the secure choice because if you choose us over any other business, it's the right choice. Yeah. If you're looking at a tender document and it's us against two other businesses, there's that subliminal message of actually Ramsack are the secure choice, and that's why we should go with them.
And I read it very much that we're there for you.
Yes.
So I'd love to talk about why you say that your sales team is your relationship team.
Yes, that's really interesting as well. So lots of people have questioned me over the years in terms of, we don't have commission-based salespeople. We have a team of people, and we put together a team for each customer. We have a team of people who manage the relationship, and there are different levels of people within that. So some are very, very technical, sort of solution architects in terms of designing what the solution is. But for us, it's about taking customer on a journey and making sure that we understand what their needs are, and that we use technology sensibly and securely to deliver that. And they're led by technical people. Again, one of our things is we are technical people, but we don't talk like technical people. We talk so that you can actually understand, and just make sure, the number of times you see a tender, and when you look at the tender, assuming you can actually have a conversation with the customer, which sometimes you can't, because sometimes they're just stuck in the mindset that we're going to a tender process and you need to answer the tender process. That's not in anybody's favor. You want to be able to have a conversation, because actually so often people can achieve a chunk of what they're trying to achieve with what they've already got, if they just get the right advice. And so the fact that we're led by relationship, their job is to advise the client on what's right for them. And sure, we are a business and we do sell stuff. We sell stuff to our clients, but we sell when it's right to. And what that does is it just buys trust and longevity of relationship. We've got clients who have just been with us for most of our Ramsack journey, because they know that they're getting the right advice. And now that doesn't mean that and we will buy our products and we will source our products from the most reputable suppliers with good backup and all the rest of it. and customers value that. You know, if you've got someone who is literally going to shop around and always try to drive to get the very, very cheapest price possible, we all know that whatever you're buying, if you look hard enough online, you're going to find a cheaper price. And that's not where successful companies actually want to operate, is it? Mm-hmm. But so for us, it's, look, come to us, we'll give you the right advice, and we'll tell you when it's the right time to do things, and we'll support you and make sure that everything is secure by design. And that relationship model for us just works. And the other thing is those relationship teams, sure, you know, we have targets, we have costs to meet. We're, you know, we've got 100 people to pay every month, so there are costs to cover, but they have team targets, and we know that we meet those team targets when we're doing the right thing.
I think it's a really interesting choice, and I think that where you are is where a lot of the sales industry will need to go. Being in a very competitive environment, and understanding that customers want more consultation than sales, and in which case you need to incentivize the team in order to do that. And the commission-based structure doesn't always work in, you know, it's rewarding habits that you don't necessarily want and isn't in the benefit of the customer. So do you find that it's difficult to secure the sales relationship player people into your organization not offering that traditional sales commission based back?
I think it's not difficult to secure them. It is difficult to recruit them. And the reality is most of those people are grown from within. I mean, we're very specific about who we recruit in terms of, you know, we interview thousands of people each year that technically could do the job, but they've got to be a certain type of person to be a Ramsak person. And I think if we get the person fit right, and that's difficult as well, because there's no cookie cutter mold to say this is what a Ramsak person is. You know, the team is very, very different, and everybody brings something else to the party. And I'm a huge believer in diversity, from the perspective actually of diversity of thought. Actually, in my industry, it's very difficult to be balanced in terms of, if you look at diversity in terms of male and female, for example, that we just don't get enough. We don't get enough people applying. But having that diversity of backgrounds and you know, upbringings and so on just brings different thinking. And to me, if people focus more on diversity of thought and looked at that as the way to look at diversity, then people end up with much stronger teams. What you don't want is an echo chamber. You know, you don't want to recruit. I don't want to recruit, you know, lots of versions of me, because then everyone thinks like me.
Yeah, I get that. So we talked a lot about the team, the company, and the culture. And I know that you're constantly bringing on new products. So talk to me about the launch of your next new innovation.
So we've recently, Secure Plus is our latest product offering. It's brilliant, and I love it, and I love that. In fact, it's been a frustrating journey for me. It should have launched a couple of years ago, and it got derailed a little bit by COVID. In our research and development, it needed work with clients. It needed us to be on client sites, and that didn't happen because of COVID. So it was frustrating that it was a couple of years late to market, really. But we've got there, and it's a cybersecurity proactive monitoring service. We're monitoring everything that's going on in our clients, and there are so many things that are happening all the time, and we use artificial intelligence and managed learning to filter this stuff. So for an average customer, we might be looking literally at 1 million different things that happen on their IT in a month. But out of that 1 million things, we will filter out to, on average, be about 150 things that we really investigate, and then we respond to that. So that might be, things like impossible logons. So you've just spent the day in the office in London, and yet half an hour later, you're trying to connect to your cloud account from Russia. Well, that's impossible, because we know that you've just spent the day in London and you can't be in Russia in half an hour. That would trigger for us, and then we would investigate, and it's fantastic, and it's going down so well. And the people that we needed to recruit to develop this and to service this have been with us on that journey, and now we've got, clients are just signing up, and it's wonderful. And I think also as well, having done this for such a long time, 31 years down the line, to still be really innovating and coming up with new products and new services that clients clearly want is really exciting, and it's really rewarding.
And what's nice is to see 31 years down the line, coming from a technical background, really understanding the sales and building relationship, that you're still excited. That's what's great to see. You're still excited about this as well.
Yeah, and I still love it every single day.
Yeah.
And I think I always say this to start, because I'm still involved in everybody's induction program. I sit down with everybody as part of that. And I always say, for me, what's always been important is growth. But growth by every measure, but the most important measure is personal growth. And I think everybody wants to feel that. And so long as you do, people talk about how younger generations don't stay in their job long, and you see them moving from company to company. We don't experience that. But I think we don't experience it because we give everybody such great personal growth. And myself included, my job is different every single year, and I'm learning, and I'm constantly training, and therefore it's still fun.
I think you're going to get a lot more applications, people listening to this. So let me give you a wrap-up questions, because I'm keen to hear about who is your hero or shero.
It would be a hero, and it would be Satya Nadella, who Satya Nadella, who, for me, the task that he'd got when he took over as CEO of Microsoft, following, both Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, he did such an amazing job, and he cares so much about people. I mean, I guess maybe that's why I link with him, in terms of, I think I share a lot of his thinking, but he cares about the people, and he cares about why. And why is the tech, why are we doing this with technology? And is there a better way? Is there a better way for people? Is there a better way for society and for the environment? And I just think what he did to turn Microsoft around, really. And I remember being at an industry event, and someone stood up and went, "Crikey, Microsoft's cool again." And I thought, yeah, no, it really is. But he drove that. And yes, I love that. And I find him inspirational.
Yeah. So are you cool to your kids?
Of course not.
One day. One day.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'd love to say yes, but no, if you ask either of them.
One day you will be, Rob. How can listeners get hold of you?
Okay, so I have two profiles. So my corporate world is ramsac.com, RAMSAC, and my speaker world is thoughtprovoked.co.uk, and I'm Rob May on LinkedIn.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. There's a lot we didn't cover, and I know whenever we meet, we have these conversations that go on for hours. So I'm really happy that you told us, you know, where you came from, and really kind of showed your values and character that comes through in the organization. So thank you so much for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast.
Thank you, Janice.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Scale Your Sales podcast. If you like this discussion, feel free to listen to other episodes or watch the captioned show on YouTube and subscribe to future episodes. I would really appreciate it if you would leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you.